I was rushed to the hospital unconscious. The doctors called my daughters, but they replied, "We can't, we're at the spa." Even after being told, tonight might be her last, they never came. A week later, they finally showed up, but my bed was empty. On it lay only a single note. The moment they read it, the color drained from their faces. The lights above my hospital bed buzzed like dying insects. I know because I've been staring at them for 3 days straight, counting the flickers. 17 per minute. I've become an expert at meaningless statistics when you're dying and your daughters won't answer their phones. The cardiac monitor beside me beeps in steady rhythm, beep, 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 a mechanical heartbeat that sounds more reliable than my actual one. Dr. Martinez told me yesterday that my heart is failing. Not dramatically, not like in the movies where you clutch your chest and collapse. Just failing. Like an old car engine that coughs and sputters until one day it doesn't turn over. Mrs. Chen, the nurse says, approaching with that careful hospital smile. Sarah, I think her name is. She's young, maybe 25, with kind eyes behind wire-rimmed glasses. We tried calling your daughters again. My throat feels like sandpaper. And? The voicemail for Emma says she's unavailable until next Wednesday. Something about a wellness retreat in Sedona. Sarah adjusts my IV drip, not meeting my eyes. Lily's phone went straight to voicemail too, but we got through to the spa where she's staying. They said they'd pass along the message. I close my eyes. Of course they're at spas. My daughters, the wellness warriors. Emma with her chakra realignment sessions and Lily with her crystal healing workshops. Both of them so busy finding themselves that they've forgotten where they came from. Did you? I have to stop, cough. My lungs feel full of cotton. Did you tell them what Dr. Martinez said? Sarah's pause tells me everything. We explained the severity of your condition, yes. The severity of your condition. Medical speak for, your mother is dying, and you might want to consider cutting your mud mask short. The afternoon sun slants through the window, casting long shadows across the sterile white sheets. I watch dust motes dance in the golden light and think about all the afternoons I spent waiting for Emma and Lily to come home from school, from college, from their lives. Always waiting. My phone buzzes on the bedside table. For a moment, my heart actually flutters. Maybe it's one of them, maybe they've realized. It's a text from my neighbor, Mrs. Patterson, watered your plants. Thinking of you, 2 hearts emoji, 67 years old, and my neighbor shows more concern than my own flesh and blood. Dr. Martinez appears in the doorway, clipboard in hand, that expression on his face that doctors practice in medical school. The one that says we need to have a serious conversation. Mrs. Chen, may I sit down? I gesture to the plastic chair beside my bed. Everything in hospitals is plastic, chairs, cups, smiles. Easy to clean, I suppose. I've reviewed your latest test results. He pulls off his glasses, cleans them methodically. Your heart function has decreased significantly since yesterday. We're looking at end-stage heart failure now. End stage. Like a theater production wrapping up its final act. How poetic. How long? I ask. It's difficult to say. Days, maybe a week. We can keep you comfortable, but. Such a small word to carry such enormous weight. Have your daughters been contacted again? I almost laugh. Almost. They're very busy people, doctor. Very important lives to live. He nods, pretending to understand, but I can see the confusion in his eyes. He probably goes home to his own family every night, kisses his kids goodnight, takes it all for granted. The way we all do, until we can't anymore. That evening, the hospital grows quiet except for the usual symphony of medical machinery. I listen to footsteps in the hallway, nurses with their soft-soled shoes, doctors with their confident strides, families visiting other patients with their urgent whispers and muffled sobs. None of those footsteps are coming for me. I think about Emma and Lily as children. Emma, 3 years older, always the responsible one. She'd hold Lily's hand crossing the street, help her with homework, braid her hair for school pictures. They were inseparable then, my 2 girls. Partners in crime and comfort. Lily was my wild child, all scraped knees and tangled curls, bringing home wounded birds and stray cats. She had this laugh, this incredible belly laugh that could fill an entire room with joy. She'd throw her head back and just let it rip, completely unself-conscious. When did they stop laughing like that? When did they become these polished, distant creatures who speak in therapy speak and schedule mother-daughter time like dental appointments? I know when. I know exactly when. It was after David died. My husband, their father. Gone at 58 from a heart attack while mowing the lawn on a Saturday morning. One minute he was complaining about dandelions, the next he was face down in the grass I'd nagged him to cut. The girls were 25 and 22 then. Old enough to understand death but young enough to be shattered by it. And I. God help me, I fell apart. Completely, spectacularly fell apart. For months, I couldn't get out of bed. Couldn't cook, couldn't clean, couldn't be the mother they needed me to be. Emma had to take charge, paying bills, organizing the funeral, making sure Lily ate something besides cereal and takeout. My responsible daughter became a mother at 25 because I abdicated my position. And Lily, my wild child, went quiet. She stopped laughing that beautiful laugh, stopped bringing home strays, stopped looking at me with anything resembling trust. She started therapy, started reading self-help books, started building walls I couldn't scale. They both did. When I finally clawed my way out of the grief hole, my daughters were gone. Physically there, but emotionally. Somewhere I couldn't reach. They'd learned to live without me, and apparently they'd learned the lesson too well. Mrs. Chen? Sarah appears at my bedside with a cup of water. Are you okay? Your heart rate spiked. I accept the water, even though it tastes like nothing and everything at the same time. I'm fine. Just remembering. That can be hard, she says gently. Hard. Another insufficient word. Sarah? Can I ask you something? Of course. Do you have children? She shakes her head. Not yet. Someday, maybe. When you do, love them fiercely, but teach them that love isn't a one-way street. Don't make my mistake. She looks puzzled, but nods. I'll remember that. The next morning brings visitors, just not the ones I want. Mrs. Patterson arrives with a small pot of African violets, for color, dear, and Father McKenna from St. Michael's stops by to offer last rites, just in case. I haven't been to Mass in 15 years, I tell him. God doesn't keep attendance records, he replies with a smile that actually reaches his eyes. I like this priest. He's young, maybe 40, with kind hands and a Chicago accent that reminds me of my mother. Would you like to talk about your family? He asks. Not really. Sometimes it helps. I consider this. What could it hurt? I'm dying anyway. I have 2 daughters who've forgotten I exist. Or maybe they remember, but they just don't care anymore. That must be very painful. It is. But you know what's worse? I understand why. Father McKenna settles into the plastic chair. Tell me. So I do. I tell him about David's death, about my spectacular failure as a mother, about the distance that grew between us like a cancer. I tell him about missed birthdays and forgotten holidays, about phone calls that went unreturned and invitations that were politely declined. I push them away, I admit. And when they learned to live without me, I convinced myself they were better off. Easier than fighting for them, I suppose. It's never too late, he says. Isn't it? Not while you're still breathing. But I'm barely doing that, and we both know it. Dr. Martinez visits again that afternoon, and the news isn't good. My kidneys are starting to fail now, too. Everything's shutting down in orderly fashion, like an office building closing for the night. We could try dialysis, he offers, but his tone suggests he doesn't recommend it. What's the point? Your daughters aren't coming. The words taste bitter. Let's not pretend otherwise. He nods, makes a note on his clipboard. We'll keep you comfortable. Comfortable. As if dying could ever be comfortable. That night, I dream about David. He's sitting in the garden behind our first house, the little bungalow on Maple Street where we lived when the girls were small. He's reading the newspaper while Emma and Lily play in the sprinkler, their shrieks of laughter echoing off the neighbor's fence. You're giving up, he says without looking up from the sports section. I'm dying. That's not what I mean. I sit down in the grass beside him, feel the phantom dampness seep through my hospital gown. What else am I supposed to do? They've made their choice. Have they? Or have you just decided for them? I want to argue, but Dream David has this maddening habit of being right. Just like real David did. They're at spas, I say weakly. So? So they chose massages over their dying mother. David folds the newspaper, finally looks at me with those warm brown eyes I fell in love with 35 years ago. Maybe they're scared. Maybe they don't know how to face losing you after they've already lost so much. I never thought of that. You never were very good at thinking like them. You always thought like yourself. In the dream, Emma and Lily run over, dripping wet and glowing with summer sunshine. They're 7 and 4 again, before life got complicated, before grief built walls between us. Mommy, come play. Lily grabs my hand with her tiny wet fingers. The sprinkler's really cold, Emma adds seriously. But it feels good when it's hot. I wake up with tears on my cheeks and a plan forming in my mind. Sarah? I call out, pressing the call button. She appears within minutes. Night shift must be slow. Can you help me with something? Of course. I need paper. And a pen. Good paper, if you have it. She returns with hospital stationery, not exactly good paper, but it'll do. I prop myself up against the pillows and begin to write. My handwriting is shaky, weaker than it was even yesterday, but the words flow out like they've been waiting. My dearest Emma and Lily, by the time you read this, I'll be gone. Not because I chose to leave you, but because sometimes the body makes choices the heart refuses to accept. I know you're angry with me. I know you have every right to be. When your father died, I failed you both in ways that still keep me awake at night, or used to, anyway. I was supposed to be strong, supposed to hold us together, supposed to show you how to grieve without falling apart. Instead, I fell apart so completely that you had to become adults overnight. Emma, you were 25 and suddenly responsible for everything, bills, arrangements, holding your baby sister while she cried. Lily, you were 22 and watching your mother disappear into a grief so profound she forgot she still had 2 daughters who needed her. I robbed you of your chance to mourn your father properly because you were too busy keeping me alive. And then, when I finally crawled out of that dark place, you had learned to live without me. You built lives where I was optional, and honestly, I can't blame you. But I want you to know something. Every day for the past 15 years, I have been proud of who you became. Emma, watching you build your therapy practice, helping other people navigate their grief, the irony isn't lost on me. You became the strong one I couldn't be. And Lily, your work with animals, your gentle heart that still rescues strays, you kept that part of yourself despite everything. You grew into incredible women without me. Because of me failing you? I don't know. But you did it, and I am so damn proud I could burst. I know you're at spas right now. I know that sounds selfish to people who don't understand, but I do understand. You're taking care of yourselves, something I never taught you to do. You're choosing your own well-being over obligation, and that's not selfish, that's healthy. Maybe you're even talking about me. Maybe you're working through 15 years of hurt and disappointment with licensed therapists who can help you in ways I never could. Maybe you're healing. I hope you are. I want you to know that I don't blame you for not coming. I've spent 3 days in this hospital bed being angry about it, feeling sorry for myself, but your father came to me in a dream last night and reminded me of something important. Love isn't about being perfect. It's about understanding. And I understand. You don't owe me a deathbed reconciliation. You don't owe me forgiveness I haven't earned. You don't owe me anything. But I owe you an apology I should have offered years ago. I'm sorry I wasn't the mother you deserved when you needed me most. I'm sorry I let my grief become more important than your pain. I'm sorry I taught you that love means sacrificing yourself until there's nothing left. That's not love. That's just fear wearing love's clothes. Real love, the kind your father had, the kind I should have learned, real love says, I want you to be happy, even if that happiness doesn't include me. So here's what I want you to know as you read this. Emma, stop taking care of everyone else and let someone take care of you for a change. You deserve softness, not just strength. And that man you've been dating for 2 years? The one you think isn't serious enough? He brought you flowers last Tuesday just because it was raining. Marry him. Lily, your laugh is still the most beautiful sound in the world. I heard it in my dream last night, and it reminded me of everything good I ever did right as your mother. Don't let the world make you smaller or quieter. Be loud. Be joyful. Be impossible to ignore. Both of you, forgive me when you're ready, not when you think you should be. Take your time. Take years if you need them. I'll wait. I've left you the house and everything in it. There's no catch, no strings attached, no requirement that you keep my memory alive or visit my grave every year. Do what feels right for you. But know this, every sunrise I won't see, I'll be grateful you're there to witness it. Every laugh you laugh, every tear you cry, every ordinary Tuesday that passes, I'll be proud that my daughters are living fully in a world I had to leave too soon. You were my greatest accomplishment, not because of what you achieved, but because of who you became despite my failures. I love you both with a love that doesn't end when the heart stops beating. Go be magnificent. All my love, always, Mom. P.S. Lily, there's a wounded crow in the oak tree behind the house. She's been there for 3 weeks, and I've been leaving birdseed on the back porch. Someone should keep doing that until she's ready to fly again. Emma, my financial records are in the blue filing cabinet in the basement. The key is taped under the desk drawer. I know you'll take care of everything properly, you always do. P.P.S. Mrs. Patterson has been watering my plants and checking the mail. She's lonely since Harold died last year. Maybe have her over for dinner sometime. She makes terrible casseroles but tells wonderful stories about the old neighborhood. P.P.P.S. I'm not afraid anymore. I finish writing as the sun comes up, painting the hospital room in shades of gold and pink. My hand is cramping, my heart is racing, but I feel lighter than I have in years. Sarah comes in for her morning rounds, finds me folding the letter carefully. That must have been some letter, she says, checking my vitals. The most important one I've ever written. Would you like me to put it somewhere safe? I hand it to her. When my daughters come, and they will come, probably in a few days, make sure they get this. Not before, but after. After they've seen the empty bed. She looks confused but nods. I'll make sure. Dr. Martinez visits an hour later. My numbers are dropping rapidly now, kidney function, oxygen levels, blood pressure. Everything winding down like an old clock. How long? I ask. Hours, maybe. I'm sorry. I'm not. I'm ready. The morning passes quietly. Father McKenna stops by again, offers to call my daughters one more time. Let them finish their retreat, I say. They'll be here soon enough. Mrs. Patterson arrives with lunch from the deli down the street, my favorite pastrami sandwich, even though I can barely eat anymore. You look peaceful, she observes. I feel peaceful. Finally. She stays until visiting hours end, holding my hand and telling me about the neighborhood gossip. Mr. Henderson's divorce, the new family that moved into the Johnson house, the city's plan to repave Maple Street. Ordinary things. Beautiful, ordinary things. As afternoon fades to evening, I drift in and out of consciousness. I dream of Emma's first steps, Lily's first word, which was kitty, naturally, family vacations to Lake Michigan where David taught them to skip stones and I taught them to build sandcastles. I dream of David again, standing at the foot of my hospital bed. Ready? He asks. Almost. I need to wait a little longer. He nods, understanding. They'll read your letter. I know. They'll forgive you. Maybe. Eventually. But that's not why I wrote it. No? I wrote it so they'd forgive themselves. David smiles, and I know I got something right, finally. The monitors around my bed begin to slow their urgent beeping. Sarah appears at my side, along with Dr. Martinez and another nurse I don't recognize. Mrs. Chen? Can you hear me? I can, but speaking feels like too much work now. I nod slightly. Is there anything you need? Anyone you want us to call? I shake my head. Everything I needed to say, I've said. Everyone I needed to tell, I've told. The beeping grows slower, more distant. I think about Emma and Lily, probably sitting by a pool right now, drinks with little umbrellas in hand, talking about chakras or crystals or whatever it is they talk about. I hope they're laughing. I hope they're healing. I hope when they read my letter, they'll understand that the greatest gift they can give me isn't forgiveness, it's the willingness to forgive themselves for being human, for being hurt, for protecting their hearts the only way they knew how. The sun sets outside my window, painting everything golden one last time. Somewhere in Arizona, my daughters are watching the same sunset, not knowing their mother is slipping away with the light. But that's okay. They'll grieve when they're ready. They'll come when they can. They'll read my letter and maybe, they'll remember that before I was a failure, I was their mother. And before they were disappointments, they were my greatest joy. The beeping stops. 1 week later, Emma and Lily arrive at the hospital together, rushing through the automatic doors with the frantic energy of people who've just realized they're too late. They've driven straight from Phoenix, taking turns behind the wheel, neither of them speaking much during the 10-hour journey. Emma's hair is still slightly damp from the resort shower, Lily's crystal necklace is jangling against her collarbone as they hurry toward the elevator. They look like their mother, the same dark eyes, the same stubborn jawline, the same way of holding their shoulders when they're bracing for bad news. The elevator ride to the 4th floor feels endless. Emma stares at the buttons, Lily counts her breaths the way her meditation instructor taught her. Both of them thinking about the last conversation they had with their mother, trying to remember when exactly the distance between them became a canyon too wide to cross. Sarah is waiting for them at the nurse's station. She recognizes them immediately, they have their mother's face, her careful way of moving through the world. I'm so sorry for your loss, she says gently. Your mother passed peacefully 2 days ago. Emma's composure cracks first. She's been the strong one for so long that breaking feels foreign, like speaking a language she's forgotten. Lily reaches for her sister's hand, and for a moment they're children again, Emma the protector, Lily the wild heart, both of them learning that the world is less safe than they believed. We came as soon as we got the message, Lily says, her voice small. We were on a retreat. No cell phones, no internet. We had no idea she was. She knew, Sarah assures them. She understood. They follow her down the hallway to what was their mother's room. Room 427. The bed is stripped, clean sheets folded at the foot, but something waits on the pillow. A single envelope, their names written in their mother's careful handwriting. Emma picks it up with trembling fingers. She left this for us? She wrote it the night before she died, Sarah explains. Made me promise to give it to you after you saw the empty bed. She said it was important that you see that first. Lily sinks into the plastic chair beside the bed, the same chair where Father McKenna sat, where Mrs. Patterson held vigil, where their mother spent her final days waiting for daughters who never came. She died alone, Emma whispers, the words cutting through the sterile air like broken glass. No, Sarah says firmly. She wasn't alone. Mrs. Patterson was here, and Father McKenna, and all of us. But more than that, she wasn't lonely. Not at the end. She seemed at peace. Like she'd made her peace with everything. Emma opens the envelope with careful fingers, unfolds the hospital stationery covered in their mother's increasingly shaky handwriting. Both daughters lean in to read together, the way they used to share books as children. The letter is long, 3 pages of words that cut straight to the bone. Words of apology and understanding, of love without conditions, of a mother finally seeing her daughters clearly instead of through the lens of her own guilt and grief. By the time they finish reading, both women are crying, Emma silently, the tears tracking down her cheeks like rain on windows, Lily with great gasping sobs that sound like her childhood laugh in reverse. She knew, Lily manages through the tears. She knew why we weren't here, and she wasn't angry. Emma reads the postscript about the wounded crow, and something inside her chest cracks open. Her mother, even dying, thinking about broken things that needed care. We have to go to the house, she says. They drive in Emma's rental car to the familiar bungalow on Maple Street, neither of them having been back for more than 2 years. The key is where it always was, under the ceramic frog by the front door, a hiding spot so obvious it shouldn't work but somehow always did. Inside, everything is exactly as they remember and completely different. Smaller than their childhood memories suggested, but filled with evidence of their mother's quiet life. Books stacked on every surface, reading glasses left on top of the morning crossword, a cup of tea gone cold on the kitchen counter. Pictures everywhere, school photos and graduation portraits, Emma's wedding to the husband she divorced 5 years ago, Lily's college art projects that weren't very good but were hung with pride anyway. A whole wall devoted to their accomplishments, real and imagined. In the backyard, they find the wounded crow in the oak tree, just as their mother described. She's magnificent and broken, one wing hanging at an odd angle, her dark eyes watchful and wary. Hey, beautiful girl, Lily says softly, scattering birdseed on the back porch exactly as their mother must have done. We're going to take care of you now. Emma watches her sister work, remembering suddenly how Lily used to rescue everything, baby birds fallen from nests, stray cats, other kids who were being bullied at school. Their mother had encouraged this, had helped turn their garage into a temporary animal hospital more times than Emma could count. When had Lily stopped bringing home strays? When had Emma stopped expecting her to? They spend the evening going through their mother's things, reading her journals, discovering the depth of her regret and the breadth of her love. There are letters she wrote but never sent, birthday cards bought but never given, a whole drawer full of newspaper clippings about their achievements that she must have collected from the internet. She was so proud of us, Emma says, holding up an article about Lily's animal rescue work that their mother had printed and framed. Even when we gave her nothing to be proud of. That's not true. Lily's voice is stronger now, more like her old self. We gave her us. We became who we are. That's not nothing. Emma finds their mother's financial records in the blue filing cabinet, exactly where the letter said they'd be. Everything organized, labeled, prepared. Even in death, their mother was making things easier for Emma, the daughter who always had to fix everything. But there's more. A savings account neither of them knew about, with their names listed as beneficiaries. The balance is substantial, decades of careful saving, money their mother could have spent on herself but hoarded instead for daughters who rarely called. Why didn't she ever tell us she had this? Emma asks. Because she knew we'd tell her to spend it on herself, Lily replies. And she knew we'd be right. They sleep in their old rooms that night, Emma in her single bed with the horse-themed wallpaper she'd been embarrassed by at 16, Lily surrounded by the fantasy novels and art supplies their mother never packed away. In the morning, they sit at the kitchen table where they used to eat cereal before school, where their mother taught them to play cards and help them with homework and listen to their problems with a kind of patience they didn't appreciate until it was gone. We have to forgive ourselves, Emma says finally. That's what she wanted, wasn't it? That's why she wrote the letter. I don't know how. Maybe we start small. Maybe we feed the crow until her wing heals. Maybe we have Mrs. Patterson over for dinner and listen to her terrible stories. Maybe we try to remember how to be daughters instead of just survivors. Lily nods, fresh tears starting. I want to try. I want to be the person she thought we could be. We already are, Emma realizes. We just forgot for a while. They spend the next week in their mother's house, sorting through 40 years of memories, learning to see their childhood through the lens of perspective instead of pain. They remember birthday parties and bedtime stories, family vacations and ordinary Tuesday afternoons that felt magical just because they were together. They remember their mother before grief broke her, and they forgive her for being human enough to shatter when the most important person in her world suddenly disappeared. The wounded crow heals slowly, accepting their care with the same wariness their mother must have felt accepting help from anyone. But she does heal, and one morning they wake to find her gone, not dead but flying, her shadow passing across the kitchen window like a benediction. She's okay, Lily says, watching the crow disappear into the morning sky. Yeah, Emma agrees. She is. They scatter their mother's ashes in the garden where she grew tomatoes and roses with equal devotion, where David taught them to recognize constellations and their mother taught them to believe in magic. The wind carries the ashes up into the oak tree, into the roses, into the soil that will bloom with new life come spring. Standing there in the backyard of their childhood, holding hands for the first time in years, they finally understand what their mother's letter was really telling them. Love doesn't end when the heart stops beating. It transforms, becomes something bigger than the person who first carried it. Emma and Lily are different now, not healed, exactly, but healing. They've learned that forgiveness isn't a destination but a practice, something you choose again and again until it becomes as natural as breathing. They'll return to their lives, their careers, their separate cities. But they'll call each other now, and mean it when they say I love you at the end of every conversation. They'll visit the house on Maple Street and tend their mother's garden and remember that they are living proof that love persists, even when everything else falls apart. And sometimes, when the light hits the oak tree just right, they'll see a crow perched on the highest branch, her dark wings spread wide against the sky, looking for all the world like she's learning to fly all over again. Just like them. 6 months later, the funeral home smells like lilies and regret. Emma adjusts her black dress for the 100th time, wondering why she chose something so uncomfortable for such an important day. Beside her, Lily fidgets with her mother's pearl necklace, the one they found in the jewelry box neither of them had opened in years. Are you sure about this? Emma whispers as more people file into the small chapel. No, Lily admits. But Mom would have wanted it. They'd waited 6 months to hold a proper memorial service. Not because they weren't ready, though they weren't, but because they wanted to do it right. They wanted to celebrate Margaret Chen, not mourn her, and that required learning who she really was beyond the broken mother they remembered. The investigation had been thorough and surprising. They'd found journals dating back 30 years, letters their mother wrote but never sent, photo albums organized by year with meticulous captions. They'd interviewed neighbors, tracked down old friends, even spoken to Emma's ex-husband who remembered their mother with unexpected fondness. She'd always asked about you, Michael had told Emma over coffee. Even after the divorce. She'd want to know if you were eating enough, sleeping enough, happy enough. She never stopped being your mother, even when you stopped letting her be one. The picture that emerged was of a woman who'd lived quietly but deeply, who'd found meaning in small acts of kindness after losing the ability to perform grand gestures of love. She'd volunteered at the animal shelter where Lily now worked full-time. She'd donated anonymously to the community center where Emma ran grief counseling groups. She'd been present in their lives even when they wouldn't let her be present. Father McKenna approaches the podium, and the murmur of conversation dies down. Emma counts the people in attendance, 47. More than she expected, fewer than their mother deserved. Mrs. Patterson sits in the front row, clutching a tissue and wearing a hat that looks like it survived several decades of church services. Behind her, the staff from St. Mary's Hospital, Sarah, Dr. Martinez, even the janitor who'd apparently known their mother by name. Volunteers from the animal shelter cluster near the back, along with neighbors from Maple Street and a handful of people Emma and Lily don't recognize but who clearly knew their mother well enough to grieve her. We gather today not to say goodbye to Margaret Chen, Father McKenna begins, but to say thank you. Thank you for the ways she touched our lives, often without us even knowing. Emma's throat tightens. 6 months ago, she would have scoffed at this sentiment. Her mother, touching lives? The same woman who couldn't answer a phone call without making it feel like an obligation? But they'd learned things. So many things. Like how their mother had quietly paid the veterinary bills for Mrs. Patterson's cat when Harold died and money was tight. How she'd driven elderly neighbors to doctor's appointments without being asked, never mentioning it to anyone. How she'd left casseroles on doorsteps when families were struggling, always with a note that said from a friend instead of signing her name. Margaret was a woman who understood that love isn't always loud, Father McKenna continues. Sometimes love is patient. Sometimes love is quiet. Sometimes love means stepping back so the people you care about can learn to fly. Lily reaches for Emma's hand, squeezes tight. They've been doing that a lot lately, reaching for each other. Learning to be sisters again instead of just survivors of the same childhood. The service is beautiful and heartbreaking and exactly what their mother would have wanted, simple, genuine, focused on connection rather than ceremony. People share memories that surprise Emma and Lily, stories of kindness they never knew about, evidence of a life lived with more intention than they'd given their mother credit for. Dr. Martinez talks about how their mother never complained, never asked for special treatment, how she worried more about being a burden to the staff than about her own comfort. Sarah shares how their mother had asked her about nursing school, had encouraged her to pursue her dreams even while lying in a hospital bed dying. She told me that the best thing about getting old was watching young people discover their own strength, Sarah says, her voice breaking slightly. She said it was like watching flowers bloom and fast forward. Emma thinks about her mother's letter, about the line that had haunted her for months, "You grew into incredible women without me." Not despite her failures, but somehow beyond them. As if love could transcend its own limitations. When it's time for family to speak, Emma and Lily walk to the podium together. They've planned this, rehearsed it, but standing in front of all these people who loved their mother in ways they're only beginning to understand, the words feel inadequate. Our mother was complicated, Emma begins, her voice steadier than she expected. She was human in all the messy, imperfect ways that humans are. She made mistakes, big ones. She hurt us, sometimes without meaning to, sometimes because she was drowning in her own pain. The crowd is silent, attentive. Emma can see Mrs. Patterson dabbing at her eyes, can feel Lily's presence beside her like an anchor. But she also loved us in ways we didn't recognize at the time. She loved us enough to let us be angry with her. She loved us enough to let us leave when staying felt like too much. She loved us enough to forgive us for being too scared to come home. Lily steps closer to the microphone. We thought love had to look a certain way, phone calls returned immediately, visits scheduled regularly, forgiveness given instantly. We thought love was supposed to be easy. Her voice catches, and Emma puts a steadying hand on her shoulder. Our mother taught us, finally, that real love is complicated. It's patient. It survives misunderstanding and absence and even years of silence. It doesn't demand anything except the hope that someday, when you're ready, you'll remember that you're loved. They return to their seats, and Father McKenna offers a final prayer. But Emma isn't listening to the words. She's thinking about the conversation she had with their mother's therapist 3 months ago. Dr. Rachel Morrison had been their mother's counselor for the past 5 years, something else Emma and Lily hadn't known. Their mother had been working on herself, trying to understand her own patterns, trying to figure out how to love her daughters without suffocating them. She talked about you both constantly, Dr. Morrison had told them. She was so proud, but also so worried that her pride felt like pressure to you. She wanted to call, but she was afraid you'd feel obligated to answer. She wanted to visit, but she didn't want to impose. She was trying to find a way to be present in your lives without being intrusive. It was an impossible balance, and their mother had spent years walking that tightrope, trying to love them in a way they could accept. Now, as people file out of the chapel, Emma and Lily receive condolences from strangers who feel like family. Mrs. Patterson hugs them both, smells like lavender and old memories. Your mother was so proud of you girls, she whispers fiercely. So proud. She'd show me pictures from your websites, articles about your work. She knew you were changing the world, each in your own way. After everyone leaves, Emma and Lily sit alone in the empty chapel. The flowers, lilies for Lily, roses for Emma, baby's breath because their mother had always said it reminded her of hope, fill the air with sweetness and memory. I keep expecting her to call, Lily admits. Stupid, right? She's been gone for 6 months, but I still reach for my phone when it rings, thinking maybe. It's not stupid. Emma studies the stained glass windows, the way afternoon light transforms the colors into something magical. I dreamed about her last night. She was sitting in the kitchen, drinking tea and working on that crossword puzzle. She looked up at me and said, "You are doing better than you think you are." Was she right? Emma considers this. 6 months ago, she would have said no automatically. She would have catalogued all her failures, all the ways she was still broken, still struggling, still falling short of some impossible standard. But now she thinks about the grief counseling group she's expanded, how many people she's helped navigate loss. She thinks about Michael, her ex-husband, and how they become friends again, real friends, not just polite acquaintances. She thinks about the man she's been dating, the one from her mother's letter, and how she finally told him she loved him last month. Yeah, she says finally. I think she was. They drive back to the house on Maple Street, the house they've decided to keep. Not to live in, Emma has her life in Chicago, Lily has hers in Portland, but as a place to return to. A home base. A reminder of where they came from and how far they've traveled. The house feels different now, lighter somehow. They've cleared out most of their mother's things, donated her clothes to the shelter, given her books to the library. But they've kept the important stuff, photo albums and jewelry, handwritten recipes and the ceramic frog that still hides the spare key. Emma makes tea while Lily checks on the garden. They've hired a service to maintain it, but Lily can't resist pulling weeds and deadheading roses when she visits. She has their mother's hands, Emma realizes, gentle with growing things, patient with creatures that need tending. The tomatoes are coming in beautifully, Lily calls from the back door. Mom would be thrilled. Emma brings 2 cups of tea to the back porch, settles beside her sister on the swing their father built 30 years ago. The wood is weathered now, the chain's creaky, but it still holds their combined weight. I've been thinking about something, Emma says, watching the shadows lengthen across the yard. What? Mom's letter. The part about Dad coming to her in a dream, telling her we were scared of losing her after we'd already lost so much. Lily nods. I've been thinking about that too. He was right, wasn't he? We weren't angry because we didn't love her. We were angry because we loved her too much, and losing Dad taught us that the people you love can disappear without warning. So we disappeared first. Exactly. Emma sips her tea, tastes the jasmine their mother always preferred. We thought if we kept our distance, it would hurt less when she died. Did it? Emma considers this honestly. No. It hurt exactly the same. But we also missed 15 years of loving her while she was alive. They sit in comfortable silence, watching the sun set behind the oak tree where they scattered their mother's ashes. Somewhere in the branches, Emma can hear birds settling in for the night, not the crow, who's long since returned to her life in the wild, but other creatures finding safety in the shelter of leaves. I want to tell you something, Lily says suddenly. Okay. I went to see Dr. Morrison, Mom's therapist. I've been going for 3 months now. Emma turns to look at her sister, surprised. How come you didn't tell me? Because I needed to figure some things out first. About Mom, about us, about why I spent so many years being angry. Lily sets down her tea, pulls her knees up to her chest the way she used to as a child. I learned something important. What? I wasn't just angry about Dad dying, or about Mom falling apart afterward. I was angry because I thought it was my fault. What do you mean? Lily's voice gets smaller, younger. The morning Dad died, I called him. I was having some stupid crisis with my boyfriend, can't even remember what it was about now, and I needed Dad to tell me everything would be okay. He was supposed to go golfing with his friend that morning, but he canceled to talk to me instead. Decided to mow the lawn while we were on the phone. Emma's breath catches. Lily. If I hadn't called, he would have been on the golf course. He would have been with his friend when it happened, maybe gotten help faster. Maybe. Stop. Emma reaches for her sister's hand. Just stop. You know that's not how heart attacks work. You know Dad's doctor said it was instantaneous, that nothing could have saved him. Logically, yes. But emotionally? Lily shrugs, tears starting. I've been carrying that guilt for 15 years. Wondering if I killed our father by being needy at the wrong moment. Emma pulls her sister closer, the way she used to when they were children and Lily had nightmares. Is that why you stopped calling? Why you stopped letting any of us help you with anything? Partly. If I never asked for help, I couldn't accidentally hurt anyone by needing too much. Oh, Lily? Emma's heart breaks for her sister, for all the years she spent blaming herself for something that was never her fault. Does Dr. Morrison think that's true? She thinks I'm an idiot for believing it for so long, Lily says with a watery laugh. But she's helping me understand that guilt doesn't have to make sense to feel real. They hold each other on the porch swing, two middle-aged women learning to be children again, learning to accept comfort they've denied themselves for decades. We're quite a pair, aren't we? Emma murmurs. Both of us so scared of being hurt that we hurt ourselves instead. Mom knew, Lily says. Somehow she knew exactly what we were doing and why. That letter. It was like she could see straight through all our defenses. Emma thinks about this, about the mother she's been getting to know through journals and memories and conversations with people who loved her without reservation. The woman who emerges from these discoveries is complex, flawed, but also wise in ways Emma is only beginning to appreciate. She had 15 years to figure us out, Emma says finally. 15 years of watching us from a distance, trying to understand why her daughters couldn't come home. Do you think she forgave us? I think she forgave us before we even knew we needed forgiving. The stars are coming out now, the same constellations their father taught them to recognize in this same backyard. Emma finds Cassiopeia, Lily points out the Big Dipper. Their father's voice echoes across the years, look for the stories in the sky, girls. Every star has something to tell you. What would the stars tell them about their mother? What would they say about love that endures despite misunderstanding, forgiveness that comes without being asked for, grace that exists in the space between what we deserve and what we receive? I want to do something, Emma says suddenly. What? I want to start a support group. For adult children who've lost touch with their parents. People like us, who let fear drive them away from the people they love most. Lily considers this. You think there are others? I know there are. I see them in my grief counseling groups all the time, people mourning parents they couldn't figure out how to love while they were alive. What would you call it? Emma thinks about their mother's letter, about the wounded crow that learned to fly again, about second chances that come disguised as endings. Learning to fly, she says. For people who need to heal broken wings. Lily smiles, really smiles, the first time Emma has seen her sister's face light up that way since they were children. Mom would love that, she says. Yeah, Emma agrees, feeling something settle into place inside her chest. She really would. They spend the night in their childhood rooms, and in the morning, they work in the garden together before Lily's flight back to Portland. They plant new roses where the old ones have died, water the vegetables that are thriving in their mother's carefully tended soil. Will you come for Thanksgiving? Emma asks as they load Lily's suitcase into the rental car. Try to stop me. But I'm bringing the turkey. No more of your attempts at cooking poultry. Emma laughs, remembers suddenly how much she used to love her sister's irreverent humor. When did she stop noticing Lily's wit, her timing, her ability to find lightness in heavy moments? Deal. But I'm making Mom's stuffing recipe. The one with the sausage and apples? That's the one. Lily grins. She'd be so happy to know we're finally learning to cook her recipes instead of ordering takeout. They hug goodbye at the airport, a real hug that lasts longer than politeness requires. Emma watches Lily's plane disappear into the clouds and thinks about the conversation they had over breakfast, about the plans they're making, about the relationship they're rebuilding one honest conversation at a time. 6 months ago, they were strangers who shared DNA and a complicated past. Now they're sisters again, not the children they used to be, but the women they've become, choosing each other deliberately instead of just being stuck with each other by accident of birth. Emma drives back to the house on Maple Street one more time before her own flight to Chicago. She sits on the back porch swing, finishes the tea that's gone cold, listens to the birds in the oak tree where her mother's ashes rest among the roots. She thinks about the support group she's going to start, about all the people who will learn to forgive themselves for being human, for being scared, for protecting their hearts the only way they knew how. She thinks about her mother, who spent her final years learning the same lessons, practicing the same patience with herself that she'd always given so freely to others. I get it now, she says aloud to the empty yard, to the roses and tomatoes and the tree that holds her mother's remains. I finally get it. The wind picks up, rustles the leaves like laughter, like applause, like a mother saying good job to daughters who are finally learning to fly. Emma closes her eyes and listens, and for just a moment, she could swear she hears her mother's voice carried on the breeze, "You're doing better than you think you are." This time, she believes it.